Glad to have you back. You're watching TVC News Hour. The acting chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, that's the ICPC, Dr. Musa Abubakar, has called for the establishment of special courts for corruption cases. Abubakar says the creation of special courts will free up judges from other responsibilities in view of the fact that most judges are overloaded with different cases. He stated this the proposal will no doubt put flesh to the provision of Section 61, subsection 3 of the ICPC Act 2000, which requires the chief judges of states should designate a court specifically to deal with corruption cases and other related matters. With us in the studio to share his thoughts and perspective with us is a human rights activist who is also a social justice crusader. I think the jury movement, Eshomomoh Ogene. Many thanks for joining us, Eshomomoh.
Thank you very much.
This is not the first time this call has been made. Former ICPC boss, they've made this call, and some other human rights lawyers have also called for creation of special courts. Even the Confab report of 2014 made an allusion to that special courts should be created for corruption cases. What do you think is different now between what we had then and what we have now? And do you think the legislature, the executive, will hit to this call?
The special courts, as it is now, it's in the ICPC Act and is also in the EFCC Act. And the truth is, the National Assembly has powers to bring and abolish and establish courts. But the irony is that in the ICPC Act, Section 61, subsection 3, that states the chief judge of a state or of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, by order under his hand, designates a court or a judge or some number of courts or judges that they deem appropriate to try bribery cases, corruption cases, fraud cases, and other related offenses in the Act. The EFCC also said it in Section 19.3 that the chief judges of Federal High Court or the High Court of a state or High Court of Federal Capital Territory, as the case may be, may, under the EFCC Act, designate courts. Now, the Constitution gives the National Assembly the powers to establish courts and abolish.
That's Section 6?
Section 6.
Yes.
But if we look at it from Section 4, it says nothing. First, it says the judicial powers of the Federation shall be vested in the courts. The judicial powers to which this section relates, being courts established for the Federation. Nothing shall prelude the National Assembly from establishing or abolishing courts. And then it also goes on to say in subsection 5J that as such, other courts as may be authorized by law with jurisdiction on matters to that which the National Assembly may make laws, e.g. EFCC Act and ICPC Act. Those are the laws that they made. And by so doing, in the acts, in the provisions of the Act, there are courts that have been designated that should run as EFCC courts and ICPC courts.
So that makes it very legal, in your point?
It is legal, but the only case is that it can only be applicable in federal high courts because the EFCC Act and the ICPC Act are federal laws.
Okay, so in which case they may have to fall back to the Constitution that empowers the state houses of assembly to do that based on what we have on the Constitution. But let's look at the pro and the cons of the call for special courts. Abubakar says it will free up the judges. It will reduce some level of bottlenecks when it comes to prosecution of cases. But would that be a panacea really to fighting corruption and getting prosecution as we should?
Today's dailies, I read the Chief Justice has a committee that monitors the corruption and financial crime cases. They just gave a verdict, and the recommendation says that the stakeholders in the judiciary are all part of the mess. And so if you will solve the case, that comes back to what we have as democracy and social justice. In the line of what we have now today, the judiciary seems not to be able to, as stakeholders, to figure out what is right. The ACJL, as the Administration of Criminal Justice Law, has given enough room for errors and trials so that we can practice and perfect the system. But as it is now, social justice, which is the principle of our constitution, social justice and democracy, gives the leverage to the citizens, because in a jury system, which the jury movement is promoting, in a jury system, you don't have the cases of adjournment. The only thing you have is just evidences. Evidences are presented, and the cases are shorter than they are.
So what are you saying, that judiciary is also probably implicated in this whole bottlenecks that we see in the system, and that they might not even allow for this to happen, the special courts?
The judiciary, the verdict that was given by the judiciary, to the Chief Justice, who is the #1 law officer. So the fact that they may not allow it is going to be ultravised to the Constitution, because Constitution has given the CJN powers and the Chief Judge of Federal High Courts and the Federal High Court of Abuja and the High Court of Abuja to designate EFCC and ICPC courts. But for us, we expect that this should be collapsed into a jury system, into a jury trial.
All right.
So that we don't have a situation where another verdict, the committees go again, they come back, the same situation comes around, and the people are there who are most affected by corruption. They are there looking forward to the judiciary, but the judiciary there's nothing left for them to offer.
So you have faith, if this ever happens, do you have faith in that system for the people you represent? You know, people of Nigeria, who you said they are affected by corruption, do you have faith that if these courts ever come to be, that they might even help to check corruption?
If the jury system comes to being, the role of adjudicating falls on you and I. Now, back to the Constitution in Section 14 talks of the principles of the Constitution. Democracy. What's democracy? Government of the people, by the people, and for the people. What's social justice? Justice of the people, for the people, by the people. So if the people are tired of corruption as it is, then the only thing we have left is for us to be part of the system. And when we are part of the system, there's no way you can remove the fact that Nigerians who are tired of this will definitely want to hold the judiciary responsible. And in that vein, they also want to do their duties patriotically to ensure that the society is more effective in terms of accountability and fighting corruption.
Okay, while this debate is going on, let's stick to what we have, the courts that we have, as it were. You have over 400, as of 2016, that was the count we had, over 400 corruption cases in courts today. Can these cases be given special status so they have speedy adjudication? Is it possible?
They are, by the act of the EFCC,
yes,
they've been given special status because they're expected to have designated courts in the Federal High Courts and in the Abuja courts, Abuja High Courts. The state High Courts can take whatever criminal cases that comes in, even the EFCC cases, but by the acts of the EFCC and the ICPC, which ensures that they are federal laws, they can have designated courts in Federal High Courts, but not except the states domesticate these laws as corruption cases. There's no way that they can have designated ICPC courts or EFCC courts. But in the same vein, if you had to now say you have ICPC courts, like you have Code of Conduct, you have EFCC courts, like you have all of that, you have so many courts, and that would overflow the issue. So for the judges to be able to concentrate, you need to reduce the level of load that's on them and give citizens a role to play, by the which, when citizens are part of the system, then the judges just have to ensure that they follow the proceedings, they manage the proceedings, and then the citizens themselves.
Excuse me.
Okay, all right. Are you okay now?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, good.
The citizens themselves will now be able to ensure that justice is done and corruption is fought.
Now, we have some states that already have special courts for corruption cases, like Lagos State. How do you expect other states to replicate this?
They can replicate it, but the fundamental issue is, can they have cases for corruption if they are supposed to fight exclusively corruption?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. That's not what is really obtainable right now. But we have to go, really. We have to leave it there. Eshomomoh, many thanks for your time and contributions on TVC News Hour. It's been very, very elucidating.